All right, here we go. Sarah here. Welcome back to another episode of You're Fucking Welcome. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how to sell confidently and how to sell confidently no matter what is in your bank account right now. Whether you are broke, whether you are making seven figures, but you're having a moment where you just maybe made a big investment or a big bill just came across your desk. We all, no matter what stage of money we are at, in my experience, in my opinion, we all have those moments where the panic and the frustration and the neediness sets in when it comes to the sales we feel like we need and that we need right now. And in those moments, showing up and showing up confidently can feel really difficult. It can feel almost impossible. We let the emotions around money and what's in our bank account or what isn't in our bank account kind of lead the way. And I know from experience that it can be really difficult to separate the two, like to separate the purpose and the expertise you still have with what is or isn't in the bank account. And again, I know how hard that is, but I want to stress to you today that it is possible. And it's something that I want you to remember to strive towards, because I really do deeply believe that each and every one of you, regardless of what is in, again, the bank account right now, I believe that you have the power, you have the capability of showing up and showing up confidently and therefore selling your shit confidently. And so I wanted to just bring you through a couple different steps that I believe are really important, again, no matter what stage of business you are at, so that you can show up confidently and sell your stuff, owning who you are, what you do, how you do it, regardless of if you're a little bit frantic or panicked about money right now, because they don't have to mean one thing about the other, right? They don't have to be correlated, and you can choose that as the business owner. And so the first thing, and I was having this conversation with my clients that are part of my momentum coaching container, and that is that I want you always to choose one thing, to choose one goal to strive towards, especially when you are panicked. So what I'll see happen a lot of times is somebody might be unhappy with the amount of money that is coming in that they have right now. And because of that feeling of anxiety, because of that feeling of neediness, needing to make more, what I find so many people do is that they'll scatter. They'll try to do, 15 new offers. They'll try to be working on 400 different things on the back end of their website, and they go all over the place. And of course, I get that. Of course, I do. Where you need that money. So it feels easy to kind of go into this place of like, I need to do all the things. I need to make all the things happen so that I can compensate and so that I can create the money that I want to. I think there's this feeling of safety when it's like you're trying to do a bunch of different things. It's like, again, by spreading it out, it feels like less pressure because you're not putting pressure on any one thing. So I get the natural inclination to do that. However, in my experience, in my opinion, especially if we're talking about showing up and selling confidently, you have to come from a place of purpose. I will never stop saying this to you. You have to come from a place of purpose, because you attempting to sell something confidently that you created for no good reason is always going to be really, really, really difficult. And so if I was in a place right now where I really wanted money coming in, but I wasn't feeling super secure about what I had in my bank account, and I really wanted to create cash, I know for myself personally, the thing that I need to do is choose one thing to go all in on, to get my energy behind and really, really, really believe in and go for. Because if I allow myself to get excited about that, again, plan from a place of purpose, really create something that I believe in wholeheartedly, when my energy is going all there, I can get myself to a place of belief that I'm like, the idea of this failing is just laughable. It's just laughable. And I'm trying to explain this. I kind of like see it visually. But if I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh God, I need money right now, and I see myself scattering and going to like 15 different offers, what is going to happen is those 15 offers, they might be okay. They might be fine. They might be like good, but that's going to be a very different thing than the energy and the belief and the confidence that I would have behind that one thing that I'm really putting my focus and energy on. Because when I'm putting my focus and energy on that one thing, I'm going to fine tune it. I'm going to make sure every detail makes sense and feels good and is sexy and is exciting. I'm not just going to say, hey, you get a bonus, one-on-one session with me. I'm going to say you get a bonus one-on-one session where we're going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to give it a sexy name. I'm going to speak to exactly why this bonus is so worthwhile, so on and so forth. I've seen this over and over and over again where people will from a probably self-protective place, half-ass the things that they're doing, like half-ass certain elements of a launch. Like they'll kind of put together an offer, but then they're like, oh, I just want to get the sales page done quickly. And, so I just kind of like I just threw it up together. I did it really fast and, it's not great, whatever. And I'm like, okay, but if you're going to spend the time and the energy of trying to get your belief behind this thing selling, why wouldn't you take your time to do the sales page? Why wouldn't you take the time to do everything to the best of your ability? And the thing here that I want you to feel into is that if you were confident about what was in the bank account, if you had $1 billion in there, you probably would do things to the best of your ability. You probably would, because you're like, I'm going to do things intentionally. I'm going to do things from start to finish so that I'm proud of them, so they make the most sense, so that it's worthwhile, it's worth my time, all of those kind of things. But again, we don't do that when we're scattering, when we're in that scattered energy. And so I really deeply believe that there is nothing better that you can do for yourself when it comes to selling confidently than really choosing one thing to get behind, to believe in deeply, to create from a place of purpose. And the second thing that I was going to say here, I'm kind of combining the points, forgive me, but you have to then do whatever you need to do to get behind that thing. And so I can give you a million different examples of this, but I would rather see you as an example. You're selling, a new one-on-one coaching thing and you want to charge $4K for it, but you don't feel super confident that it's going to sell at $4K. Please, for the love of Jesus, change the price. Or add in something, increase what it includes so that you can get behind that price. You not selling from a place of I know that this is worth every single penny, it hurts you so often. And again, I've seen this over and over and over again. I often compare this when I talk about pricing in any of my programs. I use the example of like a double-sided scale. I'm sure that has like a technical name, but I don't know what it is. But if we're looking at like a scale, right? We want to balance that scale out. I want to get it to the point where it is just completely aligned, completely in the middle. And I feel super confident that yes, this is worth every single penny. I think people would be crazy to not buy this. While on the other hand, I feel adequately compensated for my time, my energy, all of those kind of things. I'm going to use the example of You're Fucking Welcome, which we're launching right now. I know that You're Fucking Welcome, what I am putting in this program, if I said that I was going to charge $3,000 for it, I could honest to God own that the value is there. Because if I'm teaching you how to sell, it's worth millions, let alone $3,000, right? Like it's just a no-brainer. But I also knew when I was selling this program, or when I was starting to sell this program, I knew that that person who's not selling confidently right now, it made the most sense for me to make it as accessible as possible. And so at first I was planning on charging $1,000 for this round of the program. And again, I feel like that is a really valid price. But for some reason, there was something in me, and I can, feel it just from experience. I could feel that something wasn't completely a full hell yes for me. There was something just feeling a little bit off. And so I was like, okay, what if, I was playing around with a bunch of different options, but I was like, okay, what if I brought the price down to $500? And it was this bodily reaction that I'm like, fuck yes. And that's the same thing where like, I can envision the scales being balanced. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm starting to sell something and I'm like, yeah, I think that's good enough. I think it'll sell. I want to feel like, oh my God, this is absolutely about to sell and there is no doubt in my mind about it. And so again, sometimes that means lowering the price. Sometimes that means raising the price. Sometimes that means adding in a bonus. Sometimes that means taking something away. It can always be different, but the bottom line is that it is your job to balance out those scales so that you feel going into anything that you are selling that the price point is perfect, what is included is perfect, the description is perfect. And I don't mean perfect in this way of like putting too much pressure on you and striving towards perfection. But if you are going through, I've used this example before, but I remember I was doing a mastermind in-person event in 2018. It was the beginning of 2018. And it was this at the time, I had been selling a lot of low-end things. It was the first high-end thing that I had done in a while. And it included, a website. It included photos. It included so much stuff. Masterminding for a couple days. And I think I put like a $5,500 price point on it, which was totally a no-brainer. Like, it was worth every single penny for what people were getting, but I hadn't been selling at that high of a price point for a while, so I just wasn't fully confident about it. And I remember my coach at the time was like, I want you to go through the sales page, literally line by line, and convince yourself why every single thing is worth every single penny, and it is the most superior thing compared to anybody else's stuff out there. She's like, I want you going through and like, you're talking about the meals that they get for the mastermind. Okay, here's why the breakfast is going to be amazing, so on and so forth. I'm using that example because I just want to stress to you here that like, it is your job to get confident. I know that confidence doesn't come naturally to everybody, and especially it doesn't come naturally when you are having a moment of panic when it comes to money. But I'm saying this to you in a harsh way, that you then not taking the time to get behind the thing that you're selling, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. You are setting yourself up for disappointment when you do that, when you rush your way through it, or when you scatter your way through trying to make more money. So again, I want you to understand here that it is your job to do whatever you need to do to get behind that thing. And when you discipline yourself to do that, in my experience, in my opinion, does it always come to you in 5 minutes? No. I have no patience. I have no compassion for the person who, throws a fit if in 5 minutes the answer doesn't come to them. That is something that I'm always like, you have to take your time with this, that it is what it is. It's part of the process for every single human being. But when you, again, attempt to rush your way through something, that is when the lack of clarity leads to lack of confidence, and it doesn't help you. It simply doesn't help you. And so again, it is your job to, whatever you are putting out there, to truly make it your mission, to make it as good as it can possibly be in your mind, not because, again, you're striving towards this invisible grading system, if you will, right? It's not about living up to anybody else's standards or anything like that, but it is about you being able to be like, I want to shout this from the rooftops. I want to tell every single person who needs this about it, what it includes, what it costs, and the idea that it couldn't sell. I want it to be laughable to you. And I'm going to say it again. It is your job to get there. It is your job to get there. And by not making it that your job, by not doing your job in that way, you're hurting yourself. And, as I keep saying to you, this is not my first rodeo. I've worked with a lot of you. I've done this for a long time, and I see it over and over again, this rushing because people want money instead of coming from a place of purpose. And I just want to shake so many more of you and make you understand that when you take your time and when you do things intentionally and you therefore get your energy and belief behind that thing, it's when it's going to work for you and more easily than you could have ever imagined. And I want you to give yourself that gift because it so often can be so much easier than so many people make it out to be. And the third thing that I want to say in terms of just how to sell confidently no matter what is I want you to give yourself permission to stick with the familiar but stretch. We want to stretch a little bit, but we don't want to abandon ourselves, or we don't want to dive into this like foreign pool, if you will, when we're having a panicked moment. So here's what I mean by that. Actually, somebody in my Facebook group the other day, I had made a post about something like, making sure that you're doing business your way. And somebody commented, they were like, how do we find our way? And I was like, to put simply, it's where you can do things where you don't feel like a different person doing them. It feels like home, maybe a little bit like of a stretch. Maybe there's a little bit of discomfort, but you don't feel like you're abandoning yourself. It feels right to you. It makes sense to who you are. And so what I see many times is when people feel a little bit, panicked or stressed about money, that's when they have that moment where, again, they scatter. But not only do they scatter, it's like, I'm going to do this thing once and for all, or I'm going to try this thing that this person did. And in my experience, in my opinion, when you are stressed about money, when you really want or need that money coming in, the last thing that you want to do is set yourself up for something that feels totally foreign and totally unfamiliar. I believe, as I've said to you many times before, I believe that success in business comes down to doing more of what feels good, doing more of what works, and doing less of what doesn't feel good and less of what doesn't work. And so if I need to make money right now and I need to show up and sell that thing confidently, I'm going to do the thing that I know has worked in the past. I'm going going to do the thing that I have receipts for. I'm not going to try to completely reinvent the wheel and create the situation for myself where I am completely throwing my body into a state of panic, into a state of psychosis, if you will, going completely crazy and off the grid because you are all of a sudden are doing something that you've never done before. And so not only is the pressure of the money behind this, but now you're also putting yourself into such unfamiliar territory that you feel so out of body and so confused and so anxious and panicked, all of those things, that you almost stand zero chance of selling. So again, I feel like it's so easy for so many of us to not acknowledge our wins, to not be proud of the things that we have done. We're always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And, I get that to a large extent. But when you are wanting to, create cash easily, quickly, however we want to say that, we want to be able to show up confidently to be able to do that. The last thing that we want to do is abandon ourselves. We want to do what feels like home. We want to stick with the familiar. Again, maybe we stretch a little bit. Maybe that's a situation where, you were charging $500 and maybe now this time you're going to charge $600. But that's not where we're going to go from charging $500 to now $5,000. You've never charged $5,000 before, but somebody told you that you could. And so even though you've never done it before, you're going to put yourself out on the ledge and try to make it happen. And then 2 hours into it, you're freaking the fuck out and you don't know what to do from there. That does not serve you. It does not help you. And it will pretty much never, in my experience, in my opinion, bring you in the sales that you want. Because again, you've put yourself into this tizzy that isn't effective, that isn't powerful when it comes to the people who are listening to you and paying attention to you, but also is just not sustainable. And like you in yourself, like you in your body, you don't want to do things that way. You don't want to feel that foreign. You don't want to feel that out of body. And so again, I want to just like encourage you here that if you've made $1 before, you can make $2 doing it similarly to how you've done it previously. And there's no need to abandon yourself or jump to this entire new thing, new system, because you want to hit that next level, because you want to bring in cash. You can do what has worked in the past, again, maybe with some stretching and maybe with some adjusting, but it's not a moment for you to abandon yourself, because again, that's going to make things way, way, way harder. And again, when you're in that place of needing or wanting the money, that's hard enough. Don't make it harder. Right? Don't make it harder. Stick with the familiar, but again, stretch yourself in ways that you think you have to. Again, the price goes up a little bit, fine. But don't put yourself in this completely foreign territory, because like I said, it will hurt you time and time again. And I've seen it many, many, many times in my business. Okay. And to be clear, I don't mean that necessarily with myself, but I mean it with clients, all of that kind of stuff. And so I want to share that with you today. Let me know if that was helpful. As I'm recording this, it's Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, so, well, as you're listening to this, yesterday, You're Fucking Welcome, the 4-week live group program will kick off. And in week 1, we are covering your foundation. We are getting you massively, massively clear on who you are, what your style is, what you do, what you don't do, so you can own all of it. Because just like I'm talking about with all of these points, when you are not coming from a place of purpose and confidence, it becomes really, really, really difficult to do anything effectively, let alone sell. And so we start off with that in week 1 so that you can feel really, really, really good about who you are and what you do, and you can show up and sell accordingly. But then in the weeks to come, we're talking about a ton of other things. We're talking about unfucking your sales mindset. We're going to untangle all the stories and the beliefs that you have around selling. We're going to go into sexy sales copy, how to write sales pages, emails, posts, so on and so forth in a way that actually grabs attention. We're going to talk about pitching, my 3-step formula for pitching effectively, lots and lots of other things. And again, this is a live group program, which means you have the opportunity to ask me questions at the end of the trainings, all of that kind of stuff. And I never, ever, ever do live trainings, especially at this point in my business, for $500. And I will never, ever, ever do it again, especially for this program. And so I want you to understand that. I want you to hear that, because if you are somebody who right now don't feel like you can show up and sell confidently, effectively, you need in on this program. And to not get in on it for just $500, I believe is such a shame, like truly such a shame. And, just as I preach to you, I don't just say these things to you because they sound good. I say them to you because I believe them. And so when I say that, what I want you to know is that You're Fucking Welcome was not created because I needed an offer to sell. Your Fucking Welcome was created because I have seen over and over again in my business, clients and women in my world coming to me not knowing how to sell effectively. And I see very clearly why that is. And this program solves that for you. This program helps you to be in a place where you can sell confidently. And again, it's why I can speak to it with such conviction and why I can speak to it believing so deeply that you need to get in on it, because it's all coming from a place of purpose and it's truly coming from a place of intention where I believe it will change your life and business forever if you take part in it, if you listen to what I have to say, if you do the work. Again, I believe so deeply that it will change everything for you. And so if you are ready for that, sarah-dan.com to get all the details, to sign up. Obviously, if you're signing up after lesson 1, you'll still get lesson 1. You get lifetime access to everything. Everything is recorded. I don't want to keep answering that question. I've said it a million times, but just in case you're new here, everything is recorded. Everything is lifetime access. I think that's the fair thing to do. And so yeah, sarah-dan.com for all the details. The doors close next Friday. And like I said, it will never be $500 again for this live version. I don't know what I'm going to charge for it next time self-study. It might be higher. But again, even if you get to ask me one question, that's worth it. The entire $500, not to toot my own horn, but it is. And so I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of this while it's open. Okay. Again, sarah-dan.com for all the details, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, I would really, really, really appreciate it if you took the time to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps the show a ton, and I would be super grateful.